Hello, Karen here, Soul Symbols, Astrology and Tarot. And today I'm here to talk to you about this new moon in Leo, which I believe is an extremely powerful and dramatic seeding. It's a point of seeding, okay? And I know that that's used as a hook so often, isn't it? You know, it's a powerful new moon, but I actually believe it is. I think it is a powerful, powerful turning point for both individual and collective consciousness. Okay, so as we look at this new moon, this forecast, we'll dive deep into how this lunar event is planting seeds for a global rebirth, I believe, and something that will spark a paradigm shift that will unfold over the next 2 to 3 years. I am going to refer to Andre Barbeau's basket and what he said about that, and why I think this is the seeding of that period of time. But expect kind of over these 2 to 3 years, massive revelations, uprisings of creative leadership, maybe lead a global leadership that has a care for the world, and transformation in the power structures that we have already. So I think it's a cosmic reset for the world, and it's pushing us to break through from all those outdated systems and structures. And it's a time to envisage the new future. Okay. I do not think this is going to happen on the new moon exactly or anytime soon. Okay. This morning I went out and sat in the garden and I'm kind of contemplating what I think I've seen and what is going to unfold for us. And I looked up and to my left there was the sun, a beautiful sun, and I thought, there's the vitality, there's the giver of life. That's the sustainer of everything that's alive on the earth, including us. And then I look to my right, and there's the quarter moon. I'm recording this on the last quarter of the Cancer moon. And I thought, there's our flow of life, the fluctuations, the changing forces of times and seasons. And I thought back to my days of Christianity and thought of a verse in the Bible. I think it's from Genesis, when God was creating the earth and he placed the sun and the moon in the sky, our luminaries in the sky. And then he said, and the stars, and he said, let them be for signs, for seasons, and for days and nights, you know, light and dark. And this is what I think we have here, a massive sign that we can align to. It's something we can align to and we can partake. Okay. So, as I said, we have an enormous amount of strife in the world today. We have got political upheaval. We have got wars. We have got rumours of wars, talks of nuclear capacities. And it's a pretty frightening time. It's shifting rapidly and exponentially lately. And as I say, it can be very frightening for some people. There's so much suffering, there's starvation, there's war, there's our own personal difficulties. We live in a world, particularly in the West, which is so corporately caught that everything is monetized, even beauty, art, all those things are monetized. You know, an artist now is only makes good if those with the money decide, you know, they could decide a dirty old jar of half-used jam on a dirty workshop in a kitchen is art. I'm not saying it isn't. There's all sorts of, but if they decide that, then that person is enriched. And often artists measure their success and their ability by if they can sell and make a living from it. So we're mentally caught, not just in the art world, in all sorts of worlds, we're mentally caught in that corporate ideology, that corporate paradigm, but we're also caught physically in it because we've got a world in it, and it's certainly like this in England with the prices of rentals, the prices of mortgages are so high that people are really working hard and can barely keep up while the money shifts upwards and, you know, the money of the people on the lower rungs of that kind of paradigm, struggling to meet their bills, meet their rent. So we have a lot of pressure. And then we have the pressure of all the changes in the world, the AI, um, the technological advances, and people are beginning to lose their jobs because the technology is taking over. So there's a lot of talk about universal income, all sorts of progressions like that. So yeah, it's kind of unstable, isn't it? It's a difficult world that we live in right now. So to see something in the sky which is a sign for good things, a sign for, as Andre Barbeau puts it, um, a sign for peace and for building collective harmony and not collapse, is very difficult to absorb. It is for me. It's a difficult thing to absorb, quite frankly. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put the chart up for the new moon and also show you Barbo's basket, which is in 2026. And his predictions were based on this basket formation and the huge changes that will come in over 2025 and 2026. His chart is for a year on. And it doesn't involve the moon and the sun, the new moon, it involves Jupiter in it. So let's put the charts up. One sec. This new moon, so happening in Leo, and if you look at the aspect lines here, you can see there's a basket shape. Okay, it's beautiful. It's an absolutely beautiful aspect in our sky. So this new moon is in sextile to Uranus within 2 degrees. Uranus is at 0 degrees. The new moon is at 2 degrees, but it's a close enough orb to consider it a sextile. It is then trine the Saturn Neptune conjunction. And both of those are figured in sextiles to one another and to Pluto and to the new moon. But what we have is an opposition to the new moon is in opposition to Pluto in Aries. This basket formation in our sky it's sacred geometry. Okay, and sacred geometry always provides vibration, energy, and the life of the material, and it's in our sky, so it's that hermetic principle of as above so below, that kind of correspondence, so within as within so without. So it's that beautiful flow of energy in that basket. So the new moon is under the new moon. The seeds of the new moon are under the earth. They're in the dark. They haven't cracked out as yet from their little shell, whatever they are. We don't know what they're going to become unless you're an expert on seeds under the ground. But what they are is full of potential. It's like the zero. It's 0 point. They're full of potential. They are the full card, full of potential, but we don't know where the journey is going to take us at the moment. But what we do know, because of the geometry in the sky, there is beautiful flow and ease. These trines and these sextiles here are of the nature of Venus and Jupiter, and they're the benefic. So they give you ease and flow. They can see each other. They're in lovely aspect. They can share their significations, they can share and sharing type of thing. But the new moon is also opposite Pluto. Now, the opposition is a hard aspect. It's of the nature Saturn. So Saturn significations, that hard aspect is kind of limitation. It's a boundariness, restriction, disciplining, teaching us with wisdom. Ultimately, we are here to soul. We're making our souls. We're building our character, building our souls. We're learning how to live in the beauty of this lovely manifest reality we have. Saturn also is the principle of structure and order and time, and it governs material reality. So we have that opposition there. And what is Pluto? It's opposite Pluto. Well, Pluto is the force of death and rebirth, to put it simply. It churns up, it breaks down, it destroys, and it creates. Okay, it's death and rebirth. It's related to power, to wealth, to transformation, purification. It's kind of titanic evolutionary forces. So this new moon, this seed under the ground full of potential is being basically transformed and influenced by Pluto. And that may be difficult. We may have difficulties with that. Oppositions are difficulty. We may still be reeling from Uranus's entrance into Gemini. Um, we may be having difficulties in the areas of our life where Saturn and Neptune are. You might be flowing beautifully between all of those, and hopefully, if there are any difficulties, they will be easing for you over time. If you want to know about the Uranus entering Gemini and the Saturn and Neptune conjunction, I've done 2 videos on there. I'll pop them on the end screen if you want to have a look. Very rich symbolism in those two. So we have all that going on. Pluto's come for death and rebirth, and this is at the time of the seeding of this kind of infinite potential of this new moon in the temple of the sun. Okay, it is the temple of the sun. It's the vitality, the life giving of the sun. So let's have a look at. I mentioned Andre Barbeau's basket. Now this is for. I'll just change the chart. That's it. So this is for a year from now. Barbeau talked about cycles within cycles. He was the astrologer who made a prediction about the 2020 pandemic. He said that a pandemic might occur globally, but he also predicted several major global events, the massive crisis of the communist regimes in 1989, 1990, and that rapid ascent of China and the financial implications of that between 2010 and 2025, and the fall of Europe at the same time. Well, we can see some of that happening now for sure. Definitely see a kind of financial, he talked more about financial falls, and we can definitely see that within Europe. That kind of financial decline. We're moving into a multipolar world now where it's not the two competing superpowers, might is right. It's becoming more of a global trading area. You've got the Silk Road, the old Silk Road, trading between Asia and Russia, Middle East. So yeah, we've got an awful lot going on geopolitically, which it confirms his stuff. But this particular basket of Barbeau's, and you can see it mirrors completely the new moon, which I'm saying is the seeding. But Barbeau talked about 9 ascending planetary cycles without going into it too much that will occur in 2026, and it will usher in a golden era for humanity for the 21st century. So it is difficult in light of what's going on now to sort of see all that. He was talking kind of more on an economic side, that our societies would become more humanistic and poverty will be contained. So it's a beautiful, interesting. He talks about the rhythmic index. I mean, it's quite complex. I'll leave a link to Barbeau on YouTube if you're into your astrology and want to go a bit deeper with it. There isn't time now, but suffice it to say, he's talking about 2025 and 2026 having an exceptionally high peak in that planetary index. So, as I said before, he's saying the sky is set up for peace, rebuilding, and not collapse. Right now, it feels like everything's collapsing. So he's saying it could be one of the most harmonious global alignments in century. So that is our Barbeau. So where the new moon was at 2 degrees, we now have Jupiter there. So it's these large planets in aspect again. And as you can see, they haven't moved much in a year. They've moved from the 2 degree mark and zero to sort of the 4 degree. They've not moved much at all, apart from Jupiter. So that is the kind of look at Barbeau. Let me get that down. And what is it? What is it about these basket shapes? So apart from the astrology, if we look symbolically at what a basket is, the ancients weave them for gathering bounty from nature. They collected their seeds, their nuts, their fruits, and they often incorporated into those baskets patterns, and they contained images of natural world, ancestral, spiritual teachings. So bear with me a minute, this will fit into this. Uh, but the weavers were shamanic, so they were shamanic craftspeople, and they were known to work under the influence of plant ancestor spirits. And then we had the Eleusinians, and they had their winnowing basket. So they'd carry the mask and the phallus representing the divine son of Demeter, Persephone, and it symbolized that ever dying, rebirthing God, that mystery of eternal return. So, and it was to reveal the unity of the Divine Mother, Daughter, and Child as the continuity of time, extending backwards and forwards. So, quite like the shamanic basket weavers, they were drawing on the ancestral wisdom and they were pulling from the future into the present time. So, that basket has got very deep symbolic meaning in terms of just the article in the Elusive Mysteries and in shamanic lineage. So, what are we saying? What are we actually saying about all of this? We've got all these wonderful things going on. There's symbols and signs in the sky. We've got the symbolic nature of the basket, what it represents, that abundance, and the ancestral and the spiritual teaching and the actual gathering of that abundance. So what I'm trying to draw out of that is Barbeau was talking about this golden era. We have the new moon in that beautiful basket shape, almost giving us again a preview. We don't know what's in the seed, we don't know what the potential is, but it's full of potential. And Barbeau talking about this kind of golden era. So he does talk a lot about the economics. So it could be with what's going on in Europe, the Americas, particularly in the West, and that sort of inability we've got this, scarcity paradigm in our head. This, there's not enough to go round. But what we could do is trade and use diplomacy, trade that we could share, use economics, not see that the world is this great big run for, getting all the money in. And yeah, so there's that sense of huge paradigm shifts, like I keep saying, particularly in the West, to get that sense of community back, to get that sense of sharing, that we're not all competing for the same resources, that there is more than enough to go around. So we're looking at these kind of things in terms of Barbeau and in terms of the new moon. I talked about it in the Great Mind Revolution. This drawing back from ancestry, not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. To have that sense of we've got a lineage. In the West, we have lost lineage. We've become so individualized and so competitive because of the corporate capture, because how society's set up, that we've lost to a degree a sense of community. And I am thinking this is what might come back. This Pluto in Aquarius that is opposing the new moon, Pluto is going to rebirth, transform. So I think there's going to be massive Massive leaps forward in consciousness, in our individual consciousness, and therefore our collective consciousness, which is going to make those shifts. And Aquarius, that holds the myth of Ganymedes, of Zeus kidnapping Ganymedes because he was so handsome and taking him up to be the cupbearer of the king. And that sense of him being serving the gods, but he didn't belong there and he didn't belong on earth, that kind of ostracizedness. So we do have in our system at the moment this sense of we need money to be the in crowd, to dictate what is art, what is valuable, how we look at things. We're kind of surrounded by that. I mean, it doesn't matter what media you go on, it's advertising, advertising, advertising. We are bombarded with it. We're pushed to monetize everything we do. Um, yeah, so there's that great big push. But with Pluto there, it is, Aquarius. It's a sense of being on the outside. It is that being on the outside that can push us into a rebellion. Uranus in Gemini. Mentally, we may rebel. We have that trine from Aquarius to Gemini, both there. So there could be that transformation there going where we're rebelling in our mind to the pressure of, the 9 to 5 work, eat, sleep routine. We may need that sense of liberation from Uranus to push us into a shift in paradigm. And we need to remember that, we're talking about the elementals here. We have Aquarius where Pluto is, and we have Gemini where Uranus is. So we have massive transformation of Pluto, and we have this sudden, unexpected change, the great disruptor in Gemini. So we have these two things in trine, the air working together. And then we have the fire. So we have the fire of Leo. Um, Leo is I rule. It's that, taking center stage. It's creative, it's life giving, it's dramatizing. And then we have Aries, which is the other fire sign. And Aries, Aries is I am. Both those fire signs are about us. And in Aries, we have Saturn and we have the Neptune. So we've got that I am, that igniting, beginnings, pioneering. So we have our fire and we have our water. Now, if we have a small fire and too much air, too much, blowing of air on it, the flame will go out. But also, if we have a rather large fire and we put too much air on it, we have wildfires. So it's that beautiful balance of air and fire and maintaining that ability to begin to pioneer, to have that willpower of Leo and the action of Mars in the Aries to keep going, to keep pushing on with what we want to do, what we want to vision and envision and see what we can plant on the earth and within our lives. We've got to start with ourselves. We've got to do our inner work. We've got to kind of make sure we are connected with ourselves. I mean, the Aries is not Aries, sorry, the Gemini, the air Gemini is connectivity, communication. But before we can begin to communicate authentically with other people, we need to have good communication with our soul to understand what our place in this large picture that is our reality. So, we need to interact and communicate on a spiritual level. We have at the moment our sciences that have broken everything down into teeny weeny little pieces, that splitting of everything, splitting the atom. But what's happening there's a sign that they are working on a quantum level, on that microcosm level, and they're finding complete ecosystems within that. Complete worlds are microscopic, or I'm not that massively up on quantum science, but I do know they're finding things that are upsetting their scientific paradigm. So again, a great big shift, this huge shift. The science is very kind of air, isn't it? It's very about the connectivity, about how things work, how things sit within one another. But there is this disconnection, that scientific materialism, which I think is coming to an end, that breaking down. So we need to get back up to that connectivity in all areas, on a global scale, on a collective consciousness scale, and on an individual scale. We need to be able to communicate within ourselves to our partners, our family, our communities, to have that beautiful connection where that flow comes in. This is an opportunity for that flow over this next year, from the new moon to Barbeau's basket with Jupiter. We're collecting in those baskets. Where's your bad fruit? Is there fruit in there? Are there thoughts? Lack of communications, or communications that are toxic, that are kind of ruining the other fruit. We need to look at those things in terms of ourselves, and then we need to look within our families, our communities, and the wider world. I want to do one last thing before I go. I want to, just one sec, I want to share the Sabian symbol for this new moon, which I think is incredible. So it's 3 degrees Aquarius. We go the next degree on with the Sabian symbols. So the keynote of this is the individual self-realization through a crucial repudiation of a collective status that has become unbearable. Okay, it's the symbol of a naval officer deserting. Okay, so it's desertion of the status quo. Look at Gemini with Uranus. Desertion. Leo, where this new moon is in, is about, taking center stage as an individual, but also collectively. And at the moment, the collective is very pushed down. It is very kind of distracted, pushed to one side. Okay, so this is about a man, woman people refusing to accept the type of cultural patterns derived from society's specific approach to local circumstances and to the universe as a whole. So everything I've been saying about the massive shifts, the massive changes, like collectively. So the Navy, he's deserting the Navy. It refers to the ocean, a symbol of primordial and unconscious evolutionary forces. That's our Pluto. He not only refuses to obey orders, he deliberately turns his back on his collective social status. He becomes an outcast, Aquarius. And through the decision, he may definitely individualize his consciousness. So again, it's that pulling away from group speak, group think, and particularly what is programmed into us, from society, our families, the culture. So it's it's an incredible symbol for this new moon. It kind of encompasses the whole lot. So I'll read the rest of it. It says something with collective social value is being potentially destroyed. That will be Pluto opposite this new moon. But nature is not the destroyer, as in the preceding symbol. Man, the individual, steps out of his bondage to collective patterns and ideals. He may find himself, by means of a sharp renunciation of his social birthright, a crucial process of desocialization. And I honestly think, we look outside our basket for that change, some leader to come and change it, some messiah to come and change it. But actually, the change is going to come in a collective change of consciousness, which starts with us. It starts within, it starts with our inner work. And that mounts, it's the yeast in the dough, as one person changes, the people around them changes. It's a collective build of change. And I think this is where the change is going to come. It's going to come in a huge shift, which is underway. It really is underway. We have people moving out of towns and cities and getting into collectives and farming the land and trying to help, help the earth, get out of the consumerism, get out of the rat race, basically. So we do have this all going on currently, and we are all responsible for our own path, our own walk. We need to do the work. We need to be pulling on our ancestors. And whether it's our lineage or the wisdom of elders, the wisdom of these ancient lines, they bring wisdom. They have prophecies that talk about, I think it's the rainbow people. But there's this sense with them that people from the outside of their lineage will connect up with them. And I think this is on a conscious level. There's been a rise of interest in the indigenous lineages, in their shamanic practices, in their care for the earth, in their extreme connectivity with the earth, the knowing of the earth is a living organism and it is alive, and our cosmos is alive. So yeah, this geometry in the sky is offering you a basket, and the question is, what have you got in your basket? What are you putting in your basket? Mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, particularly. So this is what I have for you people. It was a little bit of a mishmash, and I hope the general idea came over to you. If you, I'm going to do all my, monetizing stuff now because I'm in the same society as you. I need to earn a living. But if you want a reading, astrology or tarot or oracle, I do shadow work, I do soul path work. Please check out soulsymbols.co.uk, and I will see you in the next one. All right, lots of love to you all. Bye bye.